one of life's most underappreciated talents is to know when it's time to move on to life's next chapter.
And then he died right on the spot. He just melted and gone. It's fine.
So, folks, there should be celebration in the halls. We should all be dancing. Mitch McConnell has announced he is retiring from his position as leader of the Republicans, longest leader in Senate history of the Republican Party. We should be, and he's awful, and I'm going to get into that. But what's going to come along next is actually going to be worse, as it always is with a party spiraling downward into authoritarianism. But first, let's talk about McConnell, who will eventually make the Mount Rushmore of awful senators who helped harm America, imperil it. We don't know where our future is headed yet, but the ones I'll compare him to have almost sent us into civil wars and similar horrible instances for us. He's much like John C. Calhoun, a former vice president, but who was senator during the 1840s when he came up with the concept of nullification, and the southern states could do whatever they wanted. When the time came to demagogue, he did. He was a virulent racist who defended slavery, and of course, he was one of the key architects who helped push this country into a civil war when Lincoln was elected.
Judge us not too harshly, sir, and bid Her Majesty like. Because the real determination our courts and our president must make is not whether this ragtag group of Africans raise swords against their enemy, but rather, must we?
Then there's Joseph McCarthy, he probably needs no introduction. The guy with the list. I've got 40 names. I've got 270 names. I've got a name and a half. Always different number, nothing on the list. A demagogue who used anti-communism and the fears of that in the 1950s to go after everyone from Eisenhower to General Marshall, the Army, members of Congress. He destroyed people's lives in Hollywood and just set this country upside down for a number of years until he was defeated.
This is no time for men who oppose Senator McCarthy's methods to keep silent, or for those who approve. We can deny our heritage and our history, but we cannot escape responsibility for the results. We proclaim ourselves, indeed, as we are, the defenders of freedom wherever it continues to exist in the world, but we cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home. The actions of the junior senator from Wisconsin have caused alarm and dismay amongst our allies abroad and given considerable comfort to our enemies.
That is who Mitch McConnell joins. Mitch McConnell has done so much damage to the Senate, it's sort of hard to put it all together, but I'd sort of put it into four key categories. I tweeted about this earlier. One, obsessed with campaign spending, with money. From his own party, John McCain joined another Senator Feingold to pass some restrictions, not full, but some restrictions on money in our system. And to McConnell, from the very beginning, he knew that he was standing up for causes that most of us did not agree with, and that they would need to overflow us with money in our system. Money sloshing around for TV ads and for lobbyists to be on your side and the rest.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
He fought it. He took it he actually signed amicus briefs to the Supreme Court in numerous cases in what eventually, of course, became Citizens United, where all of our campaign finance structure was overturned, and we've now had Russian money, as we've done in other episodes, other countries too, Turkish money. He also, along those lines, destroyed our nominating process for judges, refused to allow Democratic judges to come up for a vote because he was determined to take over the judiciary, because that's the only way he could enact all of the unpopular opinions of the corporations who owned him. That ended committee in the Senate, where senators used to actually get along and work together. He abused the filibuster. I think there was one year where he used the filibuster more times than had been used in the history of the Republic. He made it something that wasn't just a break glass in case of emergency, but use it constantly. So every bill suddenly needed 60 votes, which never existed until McConnell took over. And the funny thing is, not funny, but in 2004, I wrote a piece on McConnell for the Washington Monthly back when I was a writer, and which I predicted this, so I'm going to take credit on that, looking at him and looking at where the Senate and House were headed under Newt Gingrich and figures like that. I looked at McConnell and said, It can only get worse if this guy becomes leader. He did, and it did. Supreme Court justices were something that were outside of the realm of partisan politics. Yes, there were fights over them and arguments, but it was considered that if you were qualified, you were getting on the court before McConnell got there. And then he made that a partisan battle to refusing to even give Merrick Garland a hearing with a bogus bull excuse.
I was just bullshitting. And you know this, man.
Because it was a year before an election that Antonin Scalia died, and then, of course, turned right around when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died about a month before an election. And while votes were already being taken, he, of course, held a vote for his own nominee, Trump's nominee, and stuffed the courts with right-wingers who are, have come up with decisions that are making this country not resemble itself anymore, on voting rights, on guns, on abortion rights, on anything you can imagine. And, of course, the final thing is when the CIA, Defense Intelligence, NSA, and everyone went to McConnell and went to Obama, went to the leaders of both parties in 2016 and said the Russians are running an influence operation. They are trying to get Trump elected. They are messing with our system. They are using propaganda. Everybody else there, even the other Republicans, agreed to get up and make a joint statement condemning Russia for getting involved in an election. They didn't even ask him to condemn Trump for accepting it. He refused to do it and said that if the Democrats did it, he would claim it was a partisan act and turn it back on us. So the Russians were able to continue doing what they were doing. They were able to elect Donald Trump, and they were able to, in essence, turn this party that had a lot of problems already, blow the door open and turn it into a right-wing, populist, treasonous, uber-nationalist, racist, sexist, you got it, party.